Well, if you like the Simone Benoit content, you're gonna love this! Sheldon Keefe remains a Leaf. Sheldon Keefe, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs for one more year on his last contract, gasp, has signed a 2-year contract extension. Let's talk about it, but first, think you know which way it's going to go? Then head on over to Sports Interaction, because when the puck drops, Sports Interaction has you covered. Pre-game, live betting on all major sports, and prop bets. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. I ran out of breath. But only if you're 19 plus, please play responsibly. So, if you're a Leafs fan, this is exciting. If you're a Leafs fan who likes reading into things too much, this is very exciting. Because about a week ago, the Leafs signed Austin Matthews to a contract extension. We like that. Well, you might not like the specifics of that. Fans seem a little torn. But he's gonna be a Leaf for the next 4 years, and he's got a year left, which means 5 years. That's half a decade. And then after that, they got the Simone Benoit contract done, and you might be like, Steve, that's so ridiculous. Stop hammering away at this. That is nothing. It is not something. It's not much of something, but it is something, and something is not nothing. And now the Leafs get Sheldon Keefe done. And I just listen, here's what it is. Number one, the Leafs got the most important part of their future in Austin Matthews locked up. I can't help but notice that as soon as that happened, things started happening. Things started following that happening. Now, the second way you can interpret this is it's the end of August. It is August 30th, the day that I am recording this, and the day that this was announced. Because you see, what happens is at the beginning of the month of August, the hockey world throws their phone into a lake. And then what happens is sometime around the end of August, beginning of September, they pull the phone out of the lake and they shake it off, they put it in rice, and then they start using it again. Either way, whether it's because Matthews got done or it's just that time of year, things are happening. And this is a rather significant thing. Now, if you've been paying attention, Sheldon Keefe was always going to get extended. Brad Treliving didn't say as much in his introductory press conference, but he certainly implied it. He basically said when he became the general manager of the Calgary Flames many moons ago, they had Bob Hartley, and it looked like Bob Hartley was on his way out. Brad Treliving did not fire Bob Hartley right away, and instead, Bob Hartley won the Jack Adams as the coach of the year. Now, the way I interpreted that was, all right, so here's why I'm not firing this guy. And there are more justifications for re-signing Sheldon Keefe, extending Sheldon Keefe, that don't have to do with Bob Hartley. Let's look at some of the things from the Leafs press release. Toronto Maple Leafs general manager Brad Treliving announced today that the club has signed head coach Sheldon Keefe to a multi-year contract extension. It was Elliot Friedman who actually broke that it was 2 years, but 2 is technically multi. I wonder why the Leafs were being coy with that. Sheldon Keefe, who is 42 years old, was named the 31st head coach in Maple Leafs history on November 20th, 2019. November? That's strange. That must mean the guy who he replaced was fired. Why was he fired? Wasn't he good? I will never not be mad that the Leafs didn't fire Babcock after the 2019 series against the Bruins. I just won't be. Through parts of 4 seasons with the club's 267 regular season games, Keefe has coached the team to a 166, 71, and 30 record to rank him 6th in wins in the franchise 105-year history. Under Keefe, Toronto has set records for most wins, 54, and points, 115, during a single season, which was the 2021-22 season, which was 2 seasons ago, while also recording consecutive 50-win campaigns over their 2 most recent seasons. Since joining the Maple Leafs, Toronto has posted a .622 winning percentage under Keefe, ranking them only behind the Boston Bruins, they're in the division, I love that, Colorado Avalanche, and Carolina Hurricanes in that span. So the reasons for keeping Sheldon Keefe are pretty obvious. The Leafs have been really good under him. It would be difficult to justify firing a guy who has put up that kind of record. What was it? 166, 71, and 30? He has nearly 100 more wins than regulation losses over 267 games. That's it? That being said, difficult to justify does not mean impossible to justify, because why might the Leafs fire Sheldon Keefe? That's right, kids. The playoffs. Keefe was head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs during the 2020 bubble playoffs where they lost in 5 to Columbus. I think most people would be willing to give him a mulligan on that one on account of he took over a really weird team in November, and then the bubble stopped the season, and then It was really weird. Ilya Mikheyev was like supposed to be our Conn Smythe champion because he had one good warm-up game. Really weird. Then, of course, there was the embarrassing loss against the Habs. The encouraging series against the Tampa Bay Lightning that they still lost, and none of us had an appetite for it being encouraging because they still lost! And then there was last year's playoffs, which was fascinating. Because the Leafs probably got outplayed by the Tampa Bay Lightning at a lot of different junctures of that 6-game series, but they won! They won! Before promptly getting their bottoms patted by the Florida Panthers in 5 games. You could certainly argue, I certainly argued on the podcast, that Keefe was outcoached in both series. He got outcoached by John Cooper in the first round last year, despite winning, and he certainly got outcoached by Paul Maurice. Statistically, there was an argument that the Leafs were the better team against Florida. Nah, not if you watched, nah. So to me, if you're Brad Treliving and you come into this situation and you got to evaluate it as the new guy, this is probably the conclusion you come to. Number one, you don't want to have a lame duck coach, and a coach with only 1 year left on his contract is a lame duck coach. The Leafs extended Randy Carlyle, for goodness sakes. And if it sounds like I'm treating this extension differently than I treat the players' extensions, that's because I am, because it doesn't matter what a coach is paid, because they don't count against the salary cap, and MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, has lots and lots of money. It matters a little bit what the coach makes, because Mike Babcock made so much that I think it factored into him being the Leafs head coach for so long. They didn't want to pay him to do nothing, and that's why he got that first little bit of the 2019-20 season. But Keefe's contract ain't that. I don't know how much money he's making per season, but Babcock's contract, I believe, was 8 years. Keefe's is 2, so it's 3. He's got 1 year left in this one and then a 2-year extension. Brad Treliving, as the new guy, came in and he's given him some new players and he's had a chance to talk to him over the summer, and he's decided, you know what, I want to see what this guy's got. And if I have to fire him, I will, because this team is an unending money pit. It doesn't matter. That's me extrapolating. Here's what Treliving actually said, again, according to the press release. Since I've joined the Maple Leafs, I've been very impressed with Sheldon, said General Manager Brad Treliving. He has shown great leadership skills with his staff and our players, and has a clear vision for this team and where it needs to go. Sheldon has established himself as one of the top coaches in the league, and I look forward to working alongside him as we head into the upcoming season. Yeah, I know the playoff record is spotty. I don't know how much of that is on Sheldon Keefe's coaching on account of we saw similar struggles before him. I think if you're Brad Treliving, you have to see what this guy has. You have to give him that extension, because heading into the season as a lame duck doesn't really seem like an option. I mean, if he's bad, you fire him anyway, but if he's good, his number continues to go up, and we know that even though MLSE makes a cartoony amount of money, and they're willing to spend that cartoony amount of money, they don't want to have to, like they did with Babcock. And you might remember at the beginning of the summer, there was a laundry list of teams that Sheldon Keefe was rumored to be like the number one contender for, I believe including the New York Rangers. If this guy stinks and needs to be fired, but also everybody wants him, something is not adding up. And if you're the general manager, you have to think you're smarter than the last guy, and that's why you got the job. So you're like, you know what? He didn't get it done with the last guy, but I think he could get it done with me. And from Sheldon Keefe himself, coaching this team has been a great privilege, and I'm truly excited at the opportunity to continue building towards our ultimate goal, said head coach Sheldon Keefe. I'm thankful for the support from MLSE and its ownership, along with Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving, who I've really enjoyed getting to know and work with this offseason. We have so many great players and people within our organization that I'm grateful to work with, and together our commitment to team success remains steadfast. Over Keefe's coaching career, he has almost exclusively been under Dubas, like with the Sioux Greyhounds, with the Toronto Marlies to varying extents, and then with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We all knew when Keefe was with the Toronto Marlies and things started to go downhill with Babcock, he was eventually going to get this job. I'm excited to see what a coach who has the record that Keefe does under a different guy, under a different mind, with a different team. I'm like you. I saw what I saw in the playoffs, and I didn't love the majority of it. Minus the comebacks and the wins. I did enjoy those. But I think in this case, curiosity has to get the better of you. A coach with that good of a record deserves a shot under a new general manager and a new group of players. So, What do you think of the Sheldon Keefe contract extension? What are you excited to see this upcoming season? He's going to have a grittier team. I wonder what that's going to be like. Let me know in the comment box down below. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really like to. Tell all your friends. Oh, I cannot wait for the season to begin. We have so much in the works. SDP starts up September 5th. CJ show starts up right in around that area. And oh, guess what? Oh, guess what? Noxie and Cax. It's coming back.